Wow. So, yes, we will be doing our F1 preview show for the Qatar Grand Prix. But big news has happened today. Adrian Newey's taken over the team principal role over at Aston Martin. God, we've got a lot to unpick. So, yeah, if you're an F1 fan, you're in the right place. This is F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. If you do enjoy the video, smash a like on the video. And if you haven't hit the notification bell, do so you can stay up to date with all of the content. So yeah, my planned show's gone out the window a little bit. We're still going to get into everything we need to get into regarding our predictions for the Qatar Grand Prix, but we're going to start off with the news. Adrian Newey taking over the team principal role at Aston Martin. Now the thing is, I actually dead straight with you, I'll always say the truth. I did a video maybe 20 minutes ago reacting to that appointment, and then it was up for 5 minutes and I deleted it because I've changed my opinion. I've actually changed my opinion on what I think about it all. So I thought we can do it live and get into it together. So anyway, I'm going to say hello to the chat. ADG, Kyle, great to have you with us. Kyle, yeah, Kyle, exactly. Kyle's been replaced as team principal at Aston Martin by Newey. Yeah, we'll be talking about that. Don't you worry. Crackeye, nice to see you in there, my friend. Legend, Mark, lovely to have you in there. Gemma, the queen of the chat, in there as well. So yeah, Aston Martin, who saw that one coming? And everyone's been texting me today going, I thought you said Newey they were looking at Newey for team principal at Aston Martin. And then they announce Adrian Newey as the team principal. Now, I'm going to tell you how my thought has gone on this. My initial thought was, similar to what Kyle said, my initial thought was, this has got stopgap written all over it. Slide Newey into team principal role. Newey's not going to be, Horner's not really available until May next year. Also, it's a complicated deal to be done with Horner because it's an equity purchase, isn't it? He's actually going to be buying equity in the team. So a lot of funds have got to travel. The valuation's got to be done on the team, which everyone's happy with. Plus his contract within the team after that, which is, I'm guessing Horner wants a CEO / team principal contract. So it's quite complicated, but they've got time to do it. But also everyone's in the press or which one, who's going to, we know Cowell's head's on the chopping block. So who's going to, they're talking about Seidel, they're talking about Horner. Even Bonotto's name got mentioned as a possible replacement. So I think Aston Martin, could have just needed to steady the ship and go, hang on a minute, right? We need to, everyone knows that Cowell's out. And everyone knows that, it's going on. But what we don't want is, we don't want to be rushed. That's what I first thought. But I need to talk to you about the actual statement, because this is the thing that's changed my mind. So this is the official statement. It says, so it says Adrian Newey will take on the role of team principal from 2026 and will be guiding the technical team, including the trackside operations of the car. Now that's important. The reason why they mentioned trackside operations is what we talked about earlier in the video, where it's Horner to Aston looks possible. It's because the trackside operations, the decisions, especially in Vegas, the decision to put Lance Stroll on the intermediates early really did bother Lawrence Stroll. So the trackside operations is very important. But here's the thing that's changed my mind from my initial reaction to, I think this is just to give Aston Martin breathing room to do a deal with Horner. It's the fact that they're announcing it as of 2026. Now, I think that's really important because I think if Aston Martin had said, as of immediate effect, Adrian Newey is taking over the team principal duties, and Andy Cowell, who's being moved over to the chief strategy officer, really his role is going to be to develop for the integration of the Honda power unit into the 26 car, which is what Andy Cowell's good at, right? We know he's good at power units. He was great at Mercedes. Toto Wolff came out in the press today and said, that's the right place for Andy. He's superb at power unit development. So, and obviously an integration into the car. So it makes sense that he's going to go over and do that role. He's going to be reporting directly to Lawrence Stroll. And Adrian Newey is still going to be doing what he's doing, running the development of the car, but also team principal. But the big point in that was that it's from 26. And I feel that when I listen to what Adrian Newey actually said, this is what Adrian Newey has said. Over the last 9 months, I've seen great individual talent within our team. I'm looking forward to taking on this additional role as we put ourselves in the best possible position to compete in 2026, where we will face an entirely new position with Aston Martin, now a works team, combined with the considerable challenge faced by the new regulations. Andy's new role, talking about Cowell, focusing on the integration of the new power unit with our 3 key partners, will be pivotal in this journey. Now, I really feel that actually Newey, I feel like Newey wants a job. I feel like he wants to be team principal. And I think because of that, I think, whereas I did think it was more likely that Horner was going to become CEO and team principal, I actually feel that this isn't a stopgap, and stopgap was my initial reaction. I actually feel this is getting they want the Horner rumors gone, because I think Newey wants to be team principal. He is clean, and actually just seen Kyle's comment there. So now Newey can clean house of non-essential personnel. Well, he's doing that, Kyle. And he's already got rid of 7 people at the aerodynamics department. He's moved Cowell out of being. I would say Newey was probably as instrumental in Cowell being relieved of his team principal duties as Lawrence Stroll. I think both of them realised that his talents are best served on the power unit and chief strategy officer, and not doing the day-to-day trackside operation, because it requires a different sort of personality. Do I think Newey's got that personality? I think we'll have to see. Newey isn't the most sort of vivacious, charismatic person, but does it need that? Or is it? But what he is good at is data. Right? Newey's not only brilliant at design, he understands, he can look at a screen full of data and go, do this, do this, do this. And he's talking about his car. So maybe it's going to be a different type of team principal, maybe even more like a James Voles. But I do find James Voles quite charismatic. But so my initial reaction, to be clear, on the video that I deleted was, I think it's a stopgap. I think Horner's still in the frame. But I think what's actually happened is there's been conversations this week with Horner, and I don't think they've probably gone that well. It's what I think, because the big point for me is, if it was a stopgap, I feel that the language would have been different. I feel that it would have been, as of immediate effect, Cowell's moving over into looking after the power unit, Newey's taking over the operations, because the way that reads is that in Qatar, Andy Cowell's still going to be operating as team principal, right? He's still going to be on the pit wall, and in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, I've done full circle on my thinking. I'm going to do a video on it, but I just want to really crystallize my thoughts. And as we're talking about it right now, I'm interested to see what you think. Yeah, so Kyle says the 2026 statement might just be a show of caution if they don't have Horner locked in yet. It could be, because I've seen a few people talk about the fact that, because you got to remember, Andy Cowell was CEO and team principal. Newey is team principal. So in theory, the CEO role is still available. And if they were going to move to a model like McLaren, where you've got Zach Brown as CEO and Stella as team principal, and Aston Martin are leaving it open that they could do something similar, well, maybe. Because that's the only other thing I could think about. If the conversations with the Horner are still progressing, and like I said, it's a complicated deal. They're never gonna. If this was a Monday phone call from Lawrence going, it's got to change. Cowell's not the right man for the job. How are we going to solve this? Trackside operations, I'm not happy with it. It's got to change. How are we going to solve it? And he's considering doing a deal with Horner. It's a complicated deal to be done. It's not going to be done in a few days, because if Horner's requirement is met, that he's wants shares, well then, an equity purchase is not that straightforward. The valuation of the team has to be done. Especially, we don't know how much the equity would be either. Are we talking 100 million? Are we talking 500 million? exactly what would that equity purchase look like, and exactly what would that valuation be. Yeah, and then the funds have got to move. And if it's Horner's backers who are backing him for this purchase, well, they've got to be verified, quantified. So it's not dead straightforward as just sort of, I mean, it's obviously very easy to move Adrian Newey into team principal role. He's already Aston Martin. Yeah, it's an easy announcement to make. It's not complicated. So I'm unsure. I'm interested to know what your thoughts in the chat. Whether you think that this is leaving the option open that Horner is still a man for Aston Martin with equity purchase and he could slot into a CEO role. But would Horner just want to be CEO and not team principal? Or is it, like Kyle's suggesting, is it a situation where, you know, even though Newey's committed for 26 as team principal, is it a temporary thing when he always knew that it's just gonna be until, because if Horner's available in May, you're only talking about March, April, May, 3 months. It would literally mean that Newey was running things for 3 months. I don't know. I'm starting to feel that Horner isn't gonna be there. I need to sleep on it and then really crystallize my thoughts for a video tomorrow. Cal says apparently there's been some resistance from Cal about some of the firings. Yeah, that I read that as well. And also some of the firings and some engineering decisions which might have been linked to the firings as well. I could definitely see the McLaren model with Horner as CEO and Newey running the car's trackside. I mean, yeah, because Horner would still be present race weekend. If it's a Zach Brown sort of stellar relationship at McLaren, then I could see that working to an extent. But I still think Horner's the sort of guy who would be, you know, potentially treading on toes. You know, how sharing the sort of race weekend responsibilities. I don't know. Because I think Horner's the sort of guy who wants to be on the pit wall, making those in-race decisions. Take that away from him means he can't influence the race. Whereas I actually think, and here's the thing, I know Horner's done well at that, but do I think Newey could do that well? I think he probably could, actually. He probably could. So, yeah, I actually... So which brings us full circle. So what about... It's like, what about Bob? What about Horner? I mean, I think it comes full circle that Alpine's could be favourite now again, because that deal was looking very, very close to being signed. And maybe he's got really good terms with Alpine if that deal is close to be signed. And maybe the conversation with Aston Martin isn't as favourable. I don't know. Chef says, if Newey needs to fill the hole until May while Horner becomes available, that's no problem. It looks like Aston Martin are playing a high-level game of personnel chess. Yeah, well, I do see that as possible, Chef. I do. Lawrence Stroll loves getting his hands on the right personnel. I mean, it would be... That announcement today serves a couple of purposes, doesn't it? One, it moves Cowell out of the way early enough into his new role, so the Cowell doesn't sort of have his nose pushed out of joint. He's already reacclimatized to his new job role. Adrian Newey saying he's going to be team principal means that all the press stop knocking on the door saying, what about Horner? And if there is a Horner Aston Martin deal to be done, they can just get on with it, I guess, in more privacy, without the press scrutiny. You know, people will just drop the story, and then Aston Martin could just drop the bombshell if they do the deal and say, hey, this is the new structure. We know we told you this, but, you know, 26, it's all change. It could be the case. It would be a clever move, because if you do want Horner, and you are, you know, and you want to get that deal done, in relative sort of privacy, well, then tell the press that the position's been filled. Tell the press Newey's got the job. He wants the job. He's taking over. Like, stop, get out the way while we make our decisions here between us, and we work out what the hell's going on. So it does do that. And it would be clever. It would be a clever move to do that, because since the weekend in Vegas, the Horner story has just gathered so much momentum. And if they have got people hiding outside their factory in Silverstone, you know, paparazzi just trying to get a sneaky shot of Horner coming out of the Aston Martin factory in Silverstone in the middle of the night. And that's what, there was one news outlet called iNews. I don't know them very well. Well, I don't know them at all, actually. But they were reporting that in the dead of the night, Horner had been spotted coming out of the Aston Martin Silverstone facilities. Now, I'd like to see a picture to prove. I'd like to see the proof. I'd like to see some receipts on that, because would they be that silly if those conversations are taking place? Do you think Horner would walk into the factory? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I think there'd be some private members club, some country club or somewhere with Lawrence Stroll, and I don't know. So I'm unsure. So this is why I deleted my video. I mean, I had it up for 5 minutes. I wasn't happy with my thoughts on it, so I deleted it. I need to really, I need to speak. I also need to speak to Tubby George as well and see what he thinks. But yeah, I need to crystallize my thoughts on it properly and do a proper video response to the Adrian Newey appointment. Kyle says, if a Drive to Survive camera crew wasn't spotted Aston Martin, then it's not true. Yeah, exactly. Where were they? Because they'd be, because Horner would have told him. Horner would have been on the phone. He loves being on Drive to Survive. Give him the attention. So yeah, so that's my reaction. I know it's dead wishy-washy, isn't it? Because I haven't crystallized my thoughts on it yet. I need to really decide, and I promise you I'll do a video on it tomorrow, when I've actually crystallized my thoughts on the Adrian Newey appointment and what it means for Horner. Because, and maybe we'll get some more details on that. Maybe we'll get some more information. I'll speak to Tubby George, see what I can get from him. So yeah, so that's my initial thoughts on the Adrian Newey appointment. But yeah, let's get into Qatar. So as you know, this weekend we're going to Qatar, baby. Yeah, so here we go. Here's your circuit, the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. I quite like this track, to be honest. We've seen Max Verstappen win there for the last 2 Grand Prix. It's a 5.4 kilometers track. Fastest laps held by Lando Norris. Will he get the fastest lap this weekend? I actually doubt it. And we'll get into why afterwards. So yeah, we've seen Lewis Hamilton win there in 2021. It's a good event, Qatar, but what are we gonna get? Stroll P1 in Qatar? Could you imagine? So we're going to be getting into top 5 predictions. We're going to be getting into who you think's going to have a great weekend in our driver of the weekend predictions. We're also going to get into our dipstick of the weekend predictions, and we are going to talk a little bit about the top teams, especially McLaren, because that double disqualification in Las Vegas, I think, is going to have a knock-on effect to McLaren this weekend. One thing they can't afford to do when there's only 24 points in it between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen is get Lando Norris disqualified or have a DNF or have a mechanical failure or any reason that you could possibly have so Norris scores no points. That would be, well, it'd be great for us as the viewer because it takes it all down to the wire for the last Grand Prix, which would be very exciting. But the McLaren can't do that. So what do I think that means to McLaren's performance in Qatar? I think they're going to be competitive because it suits their car. It's a nice, it's a track that suits high downforce, good balanced cars. Will McLaren be as balanced? Because they're going to run their ride height a little higher, obviously. But even with that said, even if they're erring on the side of caution, McLaren will be quick, but I don't think they're going to be... I don't think Norris is going to be dominant like we've seen over the last few Grand Prix. So yeah, that might give a little bit of a clue on my predictions. But talk about Ferrari. What do we think Ferrari are going to do? Well, I actually think that this track is not a bad track for Ferrari. I just think that Ferrari have given up though. I think Ferrari have just like gone 2 races left. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Ferrari are going to be pretty quick in. I think we might see Charles Leclerc pretty quick in qualifying because he always puts in a decent qualifying performance. But when you start comparing him to Mercedes, I actually think this is a track that Mercedes are going to do well again. And so if I had to predict the team standings, I think Mercedes are looking for me like they're going to have P2 in the team, in the constructors. That's what I think. But we're going to get into actual predictions. So, international circuit. It's a decent track. We're going to see overtaking. But I'm going to start off with who I think is going to be P5 and why. So my P5 prediction. Oh, by the way, don't forget to get your predictions in the chat. We're going to be coming to it. I want your top 5 predictions for Qatar and who you think is going to be driver of the weekend and who you think is going to be dipstick of the weekend. Get them in the chat so I can see them. But I'll tell you who my P5 is. I think Leclerc's going to be pretty good in qualifying. Better than he was in Vegas. But I don't think Ferrari are going to be competing for a podium. And I think I'm still going to say that Leclerc will be just that little bit quicker than Hamilton. Hamilton's just looks like he's just wants to put this season behind him, put it to bed. He was furious after Vegas. He said, I'm not looking forward to the next Grand Prix. He even said he wasn't looking forward to next season. And then Fred Vasseur had to come out and say, strong comments, just got out of the car, bad weekend. Everyone just needs to calm down. But I think Hamilton, I think he's checked out a little bit. So I'm going Charles Leclerc, P5. I'm just going to go to the chat. Have you got your predictions in? Get your predictions in. Get your predictions in the chat so I can see them. So, Charles Leclerc, P5. My P4 prediction is going to be, you might be surprised by this, George Russell. Yeah, I think George Russell is going to be solid in the Mercedes. I think he's going to be competitive, but not a podium. I think that George Russell's even come out with some comments. He's given us his prediction of who he's going to be P1, and I'll bring that up in just a minute. George Russell, I'm going with P4. It's a decent track for Mercedes, nice and balanced. The heat might play a part. But yeah, I think George Russell P4. Chef said he's bad at predictions. I think we're all bad at predictions, to be honest. We're all bad at predictions. My P3, this is one that might split the room. I'm going for a McLaren P3 and I'm going with Lando Norris. Now, the reason why I've gone Lando Norris P3 is actually behind his teammate. It's because I think Lando Norris, he has to err on the side of caution. He does not need to go balls to the wall, risk it for a biscuit. He's got a 24-point lead. He just needs to finish the race in good points. And if he's sensible, and I think Lando Norris has got enough about him now to play the odds, and I think he'd be happy with a P3, and I think he'll take P3. So I think that Lando Norris is going to be playing it safe. He can't be disqualified. He wants to stay out of trouble. No racing incidents. So I think that'll mean he's probably a little bit slightly less aggressive. Might not go for quite as many gaps. He want to stay out of trouble. But P3 should be well achievable. Lando Norris, even if he is being conservative. But what does that mean for his teammate? Well, I think Oscar Piastri is a different kettle of fish. Because Oscar Piastri, excuse me, he can go balls to the wall. He's 24 points behind his teammate. He can go for it. And I think he will. And historically, not a bad track for Piastri, this. I think it suits a nice, smooth driving style, which we know Oscar Piastri's got. And I think he's on for a good podium. I think he's on for a good P2. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So Oscar Piastri P2. It's because, by the way, the only thing I would say about the McLarens is they lose a bit of their advantage because the McLarens is very, very good on tyre wear. But because we have an enforced mandatory 2 stops, they're not necessarily going to be able to get those extended runs out on the softs or the medium tire because they have to do 2 stops. I mean, they could extend a run and do an aim to extend the run to have a good run at the end on a soft tire. But I do think that some of the advantage is taken away. But Oscar Piastri is going to be solid. I think it's going to be a good track for him. P2 for Oscar Piastri, which brings me to how can anyone not predict this, right? If you haven't got Red Bull Max Verstappen as your P1 prediction in Qatar, then we've been watching different Grand Prix. Max Verstappen completely on fire. Car's looking balanced. He's looking like he is just not ever putting a tire wrong, even for like a second. He has been super consistent. The car's doing very, very well. The race weekend decisions from the team have been fantastic. And Max Verstappen, I just think this is going to be a great track for him. So, and I think Max Verstappen, even though it's unlikely that he wins the World Drivers' Championship, I'd say it's about 30% chance that he wins the World Drivers' Championship, but 30% chance for Max Verstappen could be enough. And if we get some crazy incident where, Lando Norris gets a connection and loses a front wing and, ends up in all sorts of bother and doesn't score any points, and Max Verstappen wins the race, well, game on for Abu Dhabi. So yeah, Max Verstappen's going, and Max Verstappen, under pressure, the guy seems to get better. Right? When your back's against the wall and it's highly unlikely, Verstappen's the guy who pulls out a ridiculous result. So, and it's not just me that thinks it. I mean, even I told you that George Russell has given his own prediction. Well, listen, George Russell basically said, talking to Formel Schmidt after the show in Las Vegas, he basically turned around and said that, of course, there's super fast corners in Qatar. They're not particularly long in terms of radius, but they are fast. And then George said that his favourite is Max Verstappen for the Grand Prix. Fast corners at Silverstone, Suzuka, Red Bull were at the front there. He'll be at the front again. And you've heard it from, and he's right. He couldn't have put it better. But no one's better in fast corners. So, has to be Max Verstappen. Does that mean I'm going to give him driver of the weekend? No, because that would be boring. I'm going for something different. And let me just go to the chat actually and see what your predictions are before I get into mine. But so Kyle says McLaren's tyre gun will overheat like Ferrari's brakes. Are you talking? If Piastri's in front of Norris, then definitely. So let's get to the chat. So Chef says Verstappen P1, same. Russell P2, Norris P3, Leclerc 4, and 5 Hadjar. Yeah, I can see Hadjar having a good weekend. I think it'll be a good track for Hadjar as well. Racing Bulls were looking really competitive in Vegas, weren't they? Crackeye, Lando P1. Ooh. You don't think McLaren are going to be running their ride height a little high? Max P2. Leclerc P3, Oscar P4, Russell P5. We've got a lot of the same drivers, haven't we, in our top 5, just different orders. I actually think Chef says he's bad at predictions, but actually Chef's predictions don't look bad to me. Not bad. I like the Hadjar prediction P5. I actually think that's pretty cool. Mark Reeves says Verstappen P1, Russell P2. You see, I toyed with Russell getting a podium, but I think I just got a feeling that Piastri and the McLarens are going to be quicker than the Mercedes. So, Russell P2, Norris P3, Kimi P4, Hadjar P5. You got Hadjar P5. People thinking Hadjar's going to have a good Grand Prix. Max, and you're right, Kyle, Max has won here in 23 and 24. It's a good track for Max. I just can't see, unless Red Bull have some sort of failure, but he's got that new engine in, hasn't he? He's got a pretty new engine. Yeah, Verstappen are going to, I can't see past Verstappen. Crackite says, driver of the day, Lando for winning the title. Dipstick of the day, Ferrari, just Ferrari. I think they'll mess up Hamilton's 25 lap tire limit and he'll get a penalty for it. Well, listen, Ferrari as it could be, Ferrari could be, which maybe we should do team dipstick team. Shaitan says, man, I did not see the news coming at all. Yeah, I know, unexpected and risky one, but I'm intrigued and still quite like it. There might be more to come with that news, Shaitan, to be fair, with the Newey appointment. I don't know. I'm still gathering my thoughts on that one. So Kyle says Red Bull will have a failure, Yuki. Yeah, that's it. I mean, they will have a failure, Yuki. Which actually, it's no surprise because my dipstick of the weekend prediction, I'll tell you right now, is it's Yuki Tsunoda. Like, it's not all his fault. I think he's. I saw an article talking about Yuki, basically saying that Yuki has become Max Verstappen's assistant. He's literally like his assistant. He's been demoted to just Max's bitch. Yeah, and it's not. Look, Yuki's done. We know that Yuki's F1 career unfortunately is done, and yeah, Red Bull will be using Yuki as a sacrificial lamb again. And I don't think Yuki helps his case. It's not like he's doing anything remarkable that makes him. You know, he's not even scoring points, is he? And when your teammate's finishing P1 and qualifying P1 and you're finishing P12 or starting in the back, you know, and a mixture of problems with tyres, I get it, you know. The team did say sorry about Yuki's tyres. But ultimately, I think Yuki's going to be dipstick of the weekend for me. You might be surprised at who I predict for driver of the weekend. Yeah, Cracker. Yeah, Yuki tire pressure again. I mean, the team did apologize. Yuki. It's impossible circumstances now for Yuki to try and put in a top 5 performance in that car. So 4 of you have got Hadjar as in the top 5. I do like it, but listen, I've gone the opposite to Hadjar. So for my driver of the weekend prediction, I know he was actually my dipstick of the weekend at Vegas, but I think Liam Lawson. I think Liam Lawson is going to be driver of the weekend. I think he's going to finish P6. He could even finish P5. I think Lawson is going to put in a good performance. I don't know why. I feel that after his Vegas debacle, he was qualifying really well. He was quick, and I think because he's still not been announced as the Racing Bulls driver for 26, they might announce it in Qatar, but I doubt it. The Dark Lord is not going to do it. He's going to wait till the last minute. It's going to be Abu Dhabi. He's going to put Yuki out of his misery after Yuki's done everything to keep him motivated as much as he can for the next 2 Grand Prix. But I'm predicting Liam Lawson is going to have a good Grand Prix. Yeah, and I'm predicting he's going to be driver of the weekend. You see, with Liam Lawson, he's either going to be driver of the weekend or he's going to go out in like a blaze of glory and do something really stupid. Take out Lando Norris, right, first corner. You know, have a crazy, coming together, change the entire course of the driver championship. Like, it's just possible with Liam. Or he's gonna drive really well. He's gonna be super aggressive. He's gonna string a good Grand Prix weekend together. And I just feel like he's due for it. I think Liam Lawson needs it. I think Hadjar's better than Lawson at the moment. But do I think Lawson has got it in him to become like a really good Grand Prix driver? I kind of think he has. He's got that. He's got something about him. So Kyle says Marco has said the driver announce will be the Monday after Abu Dhabi. Yeah, and I think he'll stick to it. And I think Yuki knows, really. Liam Lawson's talking quite confidently, actually, even though he's playing the game saying, I've not been given my seat, I'm fighting for my seat. But I think he feels if Liam Lawson doesn't get the Racing Bulls seat for 26, I think he will be really shocked. I think he will be shocked. I will be shocked. But I think if it's on fairness, Lawson has to get that seat. The only thing that could happen, which I don't think it will, is if they decide to change their mind about Arvid Lindblad coming into the Racing Bulls seat. But here's the thing, like, if they do promote Lindblad and he's not quick in the Racing Bulls, there is a situation I could see where Yuki is a reserve driver for one of the teams, and Yuki then steps in. Because with any new rookie, they don't get a lot of time at Red Bull, if they were in the Red Bull car. If Hadjar, for instance, when he gets promoted into the Red Bull, well, look what happened to Lawson. What if Hadjar is awful in the Red Bull in 26? What if that car is undrivable for him? We've seen this rookie with all this promise. What happens then? Do they drop him back into the Racing Bulls car? And if Lindblad's got a drive, do they drop Lindblad out? Do they bring Yuki back? Or do they switch it to Liam Lawson again? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately, I don't know how they play that, because no one's really spoken about that. Because if Lindblad's got the seat in the Racing Bulls, Lawson's got the seat in the Racing Bulls. If Hadjar is awful in the Red Bull 26 car, I suppose you just have to switch him for one of the. I mean, you might even see Lindblad getting a go, Lawson getting another go. I don't know. They just probably have to switch him out between the whoever's in the Racing Bulls seat. But yeah, I think that's going to be most likely. Or the only other alternative. Yeah, I know. I think that's going to have to be how it would have to be, and Yuki would have to be, if they offer him anything, it would be some sort of reserve driver role. Would he take it? Could he get a drive in a different series? Yeah, I'm sure he could, somewhere else. But yeah, that's what I think. So, but going back to Qatar, I am predicting Liam Lawson as my driver of the weekend. I'm going to go and see who you're predicting. So let me try and find your driver of the weekends. So I've got all your top fives. I'm just trying to scroll through the chat. Yeah, Mark's right. Lawson needs a good weekend to keep his bum in a seat. I think he does. So Kyle says Lindblad doesn't have a seat in F2 for next year. So So that's I like Kyle's made an interesting point. So you think that if Hadjar doesn't work out in the Red Bull, they would swap him for Lindblad. I'm here for it. He needs to get more than a couple of races. I think the 2-race decision, though, I think a lot of that was Horner. Now, there's an interesting thing to ponder on, Crackite. Could you imagine Hadjar doing better than Max in the Red Bull? If whatever team Max was in, if any driver was quicker than Max, I think that would shake the Formula One community to its core, because no one would predict that. Everybody thinks, and rightly so, that Max Verstappen is the best driver on the grid. And I think he is. But you're only the best driver until you're not. And it'd be interesting if that new best driver proved it by being in the same car as Max and being quicker. But if I'm honest, I think the only time I can remember a rookie coming into a team that was quicker than the lead driver in any significant way in a top team was Hamilton when he was up against Alonso. I think he was quicker. He should have won that. He should have won the World Driver Championship in his first season, shouldn't he? That's a really good one. Who else? What other times has that happened where we've gone, that rookie's amazing? I'm trying to think, has it ever happened? I mean, obviously Behrman and Ocon this season. It doesn't happen that often, you know, because even Mika Hakkinen was saying, oh, Ricardo on Vettel, good one. Ricardo was quick, wasn't he, in his first season? Good one. But even Mika Hakkinen was saying that when Coulthard was driving for McLaren and he was driving for McLaren, he said Coulthard was quick. But the reason why Mika Hakkinen won the World Drivers' Championship in 98 and 99 was because him being the senior driver in the team, he couldn't allow it in his DNA to have a rookie be quicker than him. And so that, he said, was a thing that drove him on to keep improving, because if you've got a fast rookie, I mean, it hasn't happened this year, has it, with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli? Kimi Antonelli's got quicker throughout the year, but next year, Kimi Antonelli's not a rookie, is he? It's his second season. So and Kimi Antonelli's getting quicker and quicker, and he's a fast driver. And Russell's one of the best drivers on the grid, top 3 for me. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of a season where the rookies come in and just bin. I think Hamilton's, out of all the rookies I've ever seen in Formula One, Hamilton was probably the most impressive in my history of watching Formula One. I mean, Vettel was quick, to be fair. yeah, Vettel was quick. So Vettel was quick, but yeah, I think Hamilton's probably was probably the best. That's a great show. I'm gonna gen up on that one. We need to do. This is what we should do. We should do a show on who has had the best rookie season in Formula One ever. Because, I mean, Hamilton's a tough one to beat, isn't it? Hamilton's a tough one to beat. So yeah, I forgot I'm live. I'm just thinking through who's been the best rookie. Mark Reeves says, I think the 2026 spec cars could throw change we've never seen before in a big shape on the whole grid. I think I couldn't agree more. The 26 rule change and the new regulations could shake up the Formula One grid in a way that we haven't seen in a long, long time. It's such the 5-year cycles in Formula One always bring like really interesting, diverse interpretations of the rules. That's what history has shown us. I mean, God, back in the 80s, Tyrrell. Do you remember Tyrrell when was it the 80s or 70s when Tyrrell brought out a 6-wheeler car? It was a Tyrrell that did that, wasn't it? They interpreted the rules and said, okay, well, there's no rule saying we can't have 4 wheels at the front. And it was super dominant, wasn't it? Until they said, we can't have this. We can't have 6-wheel cars. I'm sure it was a Tyrrell in the 80s. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so what we get is this massive, diverse interpretations of the rules. Now, the way the rules are now in 2026, will that diversity be as big? Not as big as it used to be, because now the rules are so, they've developed over the last 30, 40 years. So yeah, I think we will get interpretations that are different, and we'll never see a bigger difference and divergence in interpretation of the rules as we will see in Australia. And I love that, because we could get, in theory, a team like Williams, Alpine, where they've just got it right. Because we know Williams, and the reason why Williams and Alpine are a couple that I'm suggesting is because they've probably ticked the box with the power unit, with the Mercedes power unit. So they're probably good on that front. So the rest is down to, aerodynamics, chassis, suspension, the integration of the power unit, clever interpretations of the rules. And you never know, there might be some kid at Alpine sat on his CAD machine that nobody knows, who's gone, hey, I've got, and he's just got the answers, the next Adrian Newey, and he's found opportunities in those rules, and he's, coming up with some amazing, ingenious solutions, possibly. So yeah, I can't wait for 26. I think that's a very good point, Mark. It's going to be Really exciting. But then the weird thing about the regulation changes is first Grand Prix of the first year of a new regulation change is like, wow, look at how people are interpreting the rules. Then people see, oh, wow, what's quick? Well, Adrian Newey's Red Bull suspension, which was the push rod, pull rod debate, everyone saw that and went, oh, yeah. And everyone copied him because it was better. And that's what happened. So, because you're allowed to look at everyone's cars, you can see what's going on. So, yeah, they'll probably look at the Newey car. And Newey's probably, I'd say if you're a betting man, going to have got it right. Everyone will start looking at the Aston Martin and they'll start copying it. And then by year 2, year 3, all the cars look the same. And that's what happens with major rule changes. But the power unit's going to be a massive factor. It's how people have developed the power units, because now the ground effect here is gone. There's going to be more reliance on power and how they manage the battery. That's going to be the battery technology, right? Now it's delivering 50% of the power. Like, it's engineering on a whole new scale, isn't it? The battery technology is going to have to be amazing. So, it changes things, and how that power is delivered, the electric motor, there's a lot more to this 26 regulations with the 50-50 internal combustion engine and 50% electrification. That the way that power is delivered and managed changes a lot of things, and braking changes because you've got the regenerative braking, so you're going to get braking that comes from the electric motor, which means smaller brakes. Brembo are saying we haven't really got a solution for the brakes yet because everyone's asking for different things. So that tells us most teams are developing different solutions. Some teams want tiny little brakes, and Brembo are like, well, I don't know how we're going to do this. So yeah, everything's up in the air for 26. I cannot wait. So Kyle says, I'd want to take out Max's trash if he ever switches teams. Imagine if he cleans out his closet. Most of the time, his cup is Red Bull, but he's drinking water. Are you saying that? I don't think any of them. Do you think anyone in Red Bull drink Red Bull? I think some of them do. I think the pit crew probably do. Do you think Max drinks Red Bull? Do you think he's hyped up on caffeine before a Grand Prix? Yeah, he might be. I'm not sure what it does for your hydration. I think you want to be drinking gallons of water. Yeah, so Kyle says, I love Red Bull racing, but prefer Monster as a drink. But I can't stand Lando. Now, here's a question. We want Monster. We need Monster as a big title sponsor. Monster make loads of money. Why they were a sponsor, weren't they? Weren't they a sponsor at Sauber for a little while? I'd like to see Monster back on the grid as a sponsor. Yeah, Cracker said, yeah, everyone said they're all hyped up on Red Bull for the whole time. But yeah, it's going to be 26 is going to be fascinating. So, did anyone choose for driver of the weekend? Have you all chosen Hadjar as your driver of the weekend predictions? That's like 4 of you have all picked Hadjar. Okay, we'll see. And on the 2026 regulations, I was reading an article. Oh, Monsters at McLaren, right? They're sponsoring McLaren right now. On the 26 regulations, everyone keeps saying that because of the way the cars are going to handle, that it's really going to suit Lewis Hamilton. What do you think about that? Maybe we should save this for tomorrow, because after Hamilton's comments after Vegas, where he said, I'm not looking forward to next season, I don't know. And it was in the simulator all week as well. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, Chef, driver of the weekend, Hadjar. You're all saying it. And I've gone for his teammate. I'll be all for Horner Energy Racing. Oh, the Horner thing. I mean, I promise you tomorrow I'm gonna crystallize my thoughts on this. Oh, Chef's gone for the dipstick as Ocon. Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout. Could be Ocon. Although neither Haas was that competitive in Vegas, where neither of them scored points. I'd like to see Behrman up there again. I actually think that maybe they've been playing around with the ride heights a little bit. They suddenly had a marked improvement, didn't they? So I think they were messing around with some sort of ride height solution or heating the skid blocks and getting away with it. because they suddenly did jump a fair bit in performance, which makes you think they probably were running that car super low. But yeah, dipstick Ocon, fair. Yeah, I like it. I think that's very possible. So yeah, what I'm gonna do for tomorrow is we're gonna talk about what's gonna happen with Horner. I'm gonna try and get some information about that and what his most likely twists and turns are, and we'll also talk about what's gonna happen at Ferrari as well. Yeah, Haas is 7th in the constructors. I mean, do we think Haas are going to improve next year? I think they need to. I think they need to start doing more with Toyota, because Ayuka Matsu's got this amazing relationship with Toyota and has actually brought them in some description into Haas. I think I could see Haas becoming almost like a Toyota Works team in the next few years, with maybe a Toyota power unit. But I think that's what Gene Haas is trying to do. So I do think that Toyota could end up being it could be a Haas Toyota Works team in the next few years. And I think that's probably why Gene Haas wasn't keen to take any investment or sell, because if he does that, I think the team goes up in value. And he's running that team on a budget. He runs that team on a budget. It's the cheapest from a valuation point of view. It's the only team worth less than $1 billion. Exactly. That could definitely happen if Haas does become. I don't think it. Listen, even though Yuki's out of Formula One for 26, I don't think that means we're not going to see Yuki in Formula One again. I do think we could see him in Formula One again for sure. I just don't think it's going to be in 26. Not on the grid. He might be doing some other sort of weird reserve third driver role, or some sort of, I don't know, in the fold somewhere. But yeah, I don't think it could. So, Ocon's a weird one for me, because Esteban Ocon he's a bit of a fair weather driver. He can be super quick. I did a show midway through the midway through point in the season, I did an overperformance index, which was using the gift of maths of basically who's performing better than where they should be performing from where the expected outcome of that car was, and what the expected driver standings position should be. And Ocon was actually the best performing driver according to the overperformance index, and Pierre Gasly was second. I'll be interested to see what that is. We'll do that at the end of the season. We'll do the overperformance index and see how it played out, and see, according to maths, who overperformed, who was the highest on the scale. But Ocon is too inconsistent. Plus, your rookie teammate showing you up is not a good look. You just can't have that. And Oliver Behrman has been showing that has more pace in it. So Esteban Ocon, as a senior driver, really cannot be allowing that to happen. So it isn't a good look. But 26, new cars, new regulations. We'll see. I think if Ocon if Ollie Behrman literally dominates in that Haas car, dominates Ocon next season, I think it could be game over for Ocon at that point. Yeah, Kyle says Colapinto has consistency, but the consistency is all bad. Don't get me started on that decision. Like Colapinto, like getting the drive in the Alpine for 26. He didn't do enough on track to get it, but he obviously did enough off track with the fans, the South American fans he brings, his popularity and money. I mean, if that isn't like money ruining Formula One right in front of our eyes, everyone knows Colapinto didn't deserve that drive. It's purely financial. And if Horner ends up at Alpine, Colapinto's not a driver he would want. I tell you that. I think Gasly would have done enough because Gasly has done enough, I think, to show himself to be a good driver, even though his relationship with Horner probably wasn't great when Horner dropped him after a couple of races in the Red Bull. But the performance wasn't good. Gasly's a better driver now, a much better driver now. But Colapinto, I think Horner would be like, for fuck's sake, come on. That's not, that is just a decision purely financial. But that it was a bad one. Yeah, it drives me mad that Colapinto gets a drive for 26. That's everything I hate about the sport. Honestly, I hate the fact that people can buy their way into a seat. I mean, I understand that a driver has to bring, some backing with him, but when you've been that disappointing. Anyway, don't get me on a soapbox about Crasher Pinto. It'll drive me mad, that one. Drive me mad. I just think that Flavio Briatore needed to make a decision, and he made the decision purely on the Wonga. But it's only for one season. Let's see. That's a good one, Kyle. F1 should have a rule that bottom 3 drivers lose the license. Oh, could you imagine if they brought that in? There's almost like a jeopardy to being. I mean, it's an interesting thing, even if it's not lose a license, but some sort of penalty. That would be interesting, if the FIA sort of brought in a rule that the drivers are at risk of being allowed to compete in Formula One. Hey, interesting. I like it, Kyle. That spices things up a bit. Yeah, no. Crackite says Colapinto's got a seat, and then you got Alonso and Hamilton. While Colapinto has a seat, Alonso and Hamilton are okay. That's true. But the thing is, I think even Alonso, I think he's super quick. Yeah, the 107% rule applies to the license. The problem is, we call it the 107% rule, is that there aren't really any teams that are outside of that. Really, is there? Certainly in race pace. Next year, we might see some teams that are in the 100, where the 107% rule kicks in, because if people have got it totally wrong, the interpretation of the rules, then we could see teams that are 3 or 4 seconds a lap slower. Couldn't we? We could, in theory. I don't think we will. But yeah. And actually, in Alonso and Hamilton, I still think if you were to list them as like Alonso, I still think's got it in him to be a world champion. And I still think he might be, if Adrian Newey's built a good car, could be next year. And I actually still think Hamilton is still a very quick driver. I do still think he's very quick. I think Hamilton's head and if you were to put Hamilton and Colapinto in the same car, I think Hamilton wins every time. But by a long way. Same with Alonso, Colapinto on that head-to-head. Yeah, getting relegated. You can only drive in F2. Past champions would get a pass from losing the license. If you're a world champion, and you're in a shit team and it's not your fault. I mean, these are interesting concepts. But I think here's what I really think. Let me tell you what I really think. I actually think if you're a rookie in your first season and you don't hit a certain standard, I think that you can't buy your way back in for another season. I think if you don't hit a standard, whatever that standard whatever the metrics are for that standard, then you're not allowed to buy your way back in, because Colapinto, his performances. If you score no points in a season and your teammate scores points, and you've put the car in the wall more times than anybody else, you can't buy yourself back in. Yeah, Kyle says, I'm still petitioning Elon to buy Liberty Media. Oh, could you imagine if he did? And let me run F1. But he's yet to reply. You keep sending in those strongly worded emails, Kyle, because I would love to see. Could you? Does Elon Musk even like F1? I don't know. Is he a fan? I am pretty ruthless with rookies, Chef, because I think rookies should, you're ready or you're not. And you have to be compared to your teammate. So yeah, I think a rookie means you have to drop back, do a season in F2, reserve driver, before you get another shot. If you score no points in Formula One, I think, and you're a rookie, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just don't like the fact that if you got a rich dad, I don't like it. I don't like the politics. Do you know what I mean? I like people to be, I just want to see the best drivers. You know what I mean? Yeah, Mark's getting now we've got a football type model. I love Mark saying top 3 F2 drivers replace the bottom 3 F1 drivers automatically. Do you know what's interesting about that? Is you could basically say the bottom 3 drivers, you could basically say that almost have like a draft system. So the top 3 drivers from F2 and the bottom 3 drivers in F1. The bottom 3 drivers in F1 are out. The top 3 drivers of F2 are in. But it's like a draft system where teams sort of get the draft pick. And you have to, and it's out of the yeah, maybe. I don't know. Forcing them to take drivers. I mean, it's an interesting concept. Because driver decisions are made not on merit, are they? They're made on, there's financial decisions, there's merit decisions. You've got drivers coming out that aren't from F2. You've got drivers that might come from IndyCar occasionally. Mario Andretti is what I'm thinking. Yeah, but F2 is where you want to take your drivers from. Has anyone gone straight from F3 to F1? I'm sure they have. I'm sure lots of people have. But yeah, F2. Yeah, Crackite saying, I'll be checking here for applicants. Let Spain be an F1 tryout for the season. Well, that's interesting because we're talking about what's happening at the end of the season, aren't we? We've got some testing, haven't we? Tyre testing for Pirelli. I hope Pirelli get the tyres right for next season. Pirelli are going to go down to only 5 tyre compounds. But I hope they get it right. Because Kimi Antonelli did an amazing job making those tyres last 48 laps, didn't he? But, like, they shouldn't be lasting 48 laps, should they? You know, so I hope Pirelli do make these tyres go off a lot quicker. Legend says, I think Max will not win Qatar because he likes to keep his number of wins. Yeah, no, Max is going to win Qatar, I'm sure. He's going for 96 next. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I saw all the talk about him wanting to have 69 as a number. I actually think secretly Max, you know, he likes number 3, doesn't he? As well. 3, I think he likes number 3. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. If Lando Norris wins the Drivers' Championship, he's going to want to take the number 1. Of course he will. I would. In fact, I'd want the number 1 on my car, wouldn't you? I know Lewis Hamilton wasn't that bothered. He always liked his 44. So, but yeah, I'd like to have number 1 on my car if I was won a World Drivers' Championship. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm gonna look out tomorrow for a video on the Nui Horner thing. I'm gonna crystallize my thoughts and do a good video on that for you tomorrow, and try and get some more details and information for you. So at least then I can hang my hat on what I think. But for now, I'm gonna say cheerio. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for getting involved in the chat. You've all been brilliant. Lots of fun tonight. Got some good predictions out there. And I will see you all tomorrow, either in some breaking news or on the live stream. It's 7:30 tomorrow night. But for now, ta-ta.